welcome to the first episode of us modifying this chassis, a 29 Chev, to take a V8 and build it into gambler style. Well, we've taken the centre cross members out, as you can see, and the front cross member here is not in the best shape at all. So this is probably one of the first things I'm going to have to repair, really, not even modify, just repair. You can see there's a fair bit of rust and pull through and farm boy repairs and all kinds of garbage. Also the front crank handle horn is probably going to have to come off as well. I've also made some repairs to the top of the chassis. There was a lot of pull throughs on this. There's one over there in the corner as well. And you've actually just caught me before I section this remaining back section again. So I've actually taken a fair bit of a fair bit of length out of this chassis as it is. You can see how much here I've actually taken out. So we just basically cut and shut the whole thing both sides, just cut one side, then transferred it to the other, clamped it, cut, measured, etc. Before we cut though, before I took anything out, I picked this up off Marketplace. It was pretty cheap. I've just got some fairly thick angle iron here. I've just buzz welded it to here, tacked it and kept the clamps in place. And this means that this is staying nice and secure. It's spaced off with this at the front, spaced off with this here as well, but I haven't done the rear because I'm working at the rear obviously, but I think that's fairly straight for welding with them hanging in the thin air. This one probably needs to come over a tiny bit, but these are really flexible, really wobbly, so I'm sure I've got a bit of split in there to go. I really want to keep these ends though. I don't want to be mucking around with fitting this up with an A-bone rear end or anything like that. I really want the parallel leaf look. I think if it's a Chevy, keep it a Chevy. So the idea is to take the front springs from the front there, which I'm now going to use as trailer springs, which are much shorter, about 150 mil shorter actually, which is about 6 inches. Now I'm going to take the front springs and put them at the rear. And I've actually set those spring hangers back there. They were originally there, and I've set them back about 100 mil, about 4 inches. We took about 3 inches out of the chassis, and that way, if I bring this up here, you can see that the centre line of the chassis lines up with the centre line of the spring. And then I've basically got to shorten this now. So I've worked out that with the spring here being 90 degrees for the hanger and it sits there, that's the centre line there. So we know that the centre line of that hole there needs to be in line with that one there. And to make that distance up there, which is exactly 171 millimeters, from there to there, which is the cut. You can see on 0, it's, on 0, it's exactly 171 millimeters, which means this needs to come up exactly 171 millimeters. So to get that to there, I need to cut exactly that much out. Once I cut that out, I will then take that, I will clamp it on that side, and we'll make the cut. So let's hop to it. Okay, so we've obviously all heard of measure twice, cut once. I prefer measure once and use that as a template. So I'm going to use a nut in between there to make that gap up. Put another nut up here, clamp it in place, and yeah, we'll get busy marking up and cut this side out next. Just like this, ta-da! So this bolt here is running all the way through to center line that. We've got a bolt just cupping those original rivets. Got another one up here, and it all sort of sits fairly level and straightforward. So now it's time to mark this side up, and we know that this side will now be cut exactly the same as this. How much do you hate that up? Angle grinder chatter. Scares the shit out of me. Well, that's pretty good if I don't say so myself. Next will be to cut here, and then take that section, clamp it on here, and then mark and cut this one. But before we do, let's put it in. So you can see the line here, line it up with the cut so that we know that's how much we're taking off. So we'll just set it in place, bring this up, double check, perfect. All right, so we know definitely that's the line to cut on. Let's go for it. Well, here we are, so it's all cut off, section there. So now I'm just gonna literally scribe, pull that one off, reclamp it, and cut the same piece. All right, and there we go. I didn't think you needed to see the cutting of that. You know what an angle grinder looks like. So these are now the horns that are going to go on the end of the chassis. I'm going to hang on to these. I don't know what I can use them for, but it's good steel. There's nothing wrong with them. So yeah, we'll jump into it. So now I've got to clean the edges up here. I've got to chamfer the edges properly, clean up all the rust behind them, and then obviously do the same for the cut ends on the chassis here. And then yeah, we will preheat them and get them ready for welding. Nice and bright here, ready to tack, chamfered. You can see we're going to have to do a little pie cut under here and bring this face back up to this face here, but that's minor. I did something very similar here. I've still got a bit of a hole there. I didn't even see that till now. It's quite embarrassing, but never mind. Yeah, so that's it's lining up quite nicely as well. You can sort of see straight down there. So it's just got to come around a little bit more. It's hanging off a magnet and a basic clamp, so let's hop to it. Alright, so we're all welded up. I'll just take you over this side here because I've just started here. So this is just the nice basic weld I've got. Yes, I know it's a little bit caterpillary, I'm sorry. But I want to talk more about this pie cut here underneath. Now, what I really hate seeing is when people just don't take into account this radius. So this radius runs all the way along, and it also runs all the way along here. So we don't want a pie cut down here. We want a pie cut above the radius, just up here. We want to run it all the way along, and we want to run the distance that we need to cut, which is here, above the weld, And then, yeah, that should just press up nicely. And then it will look factory once it's all ground flush. That's the look we're after. We're not trying to just, make a little rat rod chassis. We're trying to make it look like it was built like this from the factory. But, little tips and tricks like that sometimes help people. So, hopefully this helps you too. You can see here, we're nice and square. It's a little bit twisted back here, but that's okay. I can just tap that down once I tack this side here. And it's a tiny bit out of profile. I guess it kind of comes up and then opens up and then goes straight. But from the casual observer from way back here, you're not really going to see it too much, especially with a big tyre in front of it. So I think that's a pretty good outcome. And you can see there it looks pretty factory. Okay, so we're welded up on both sides. I'm probably just going to leave it there for this first video. Obviously I've really got to get stuck into this so I can start stitching the whole chassis together, but that's it, effectively shortened and ready to go. I will tell you what, let's see how well we actually did, hey? Let's see how well we did. Look at that. Like a glove. Beautiful. And that's that. Sitting pretty, looking good. The back of the spring is rear of the top of the shackle. The spring is fairly level and the center lines are looking pretty good. So I'm really happy with that. That's how to shorten the bum of a really long 29 Chev chassis. Okay, like I said, next up, this center cross member, but that'll be next video. Thanks for watching.